Hello, folks. How you doing? Welcome to Lung Transplant Nation. Today, I'm having a conversation with Mr. Vincent A. He's actually from the Bronx, not too far from me. Vincent is part of my lung transplant support group, and he's a good friend. Vincent had a single lung transplant a little over a year ago. And in this conversation, we talked about what his life was before transplant and post-transplant. And one of the things that we discuss in this next video is how important it is to have the support of friends, family, even co-workers. Because I found it very insightful. Vincent said that gave him the will to fight, to continue to fight on, because he felt that he was loved. He was loved not only by his family, but by his friends, by his co-workers. And he felt like he owed them, that besides himself, he owed them to give it everything that he had. I really think it's a very, very good conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Please like and subscribe to my channel at Lung Transplant Nation on YouTube and also on Instagram. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Lung Transplant Nation. This is Sasha once again with a conversation. I don't like to call them interviews. I like to call them conversation. I am here with my good friend Vincent Armanino. Am I pronouncing it right?
You got it. Armanino, yeah.
Armanino, that is awesome. Thank you. And like me, he's a lung transplant recipient about 15 months ago. So we're going to talk to Vinny and just get a perspective of how the process has been for him and how it is going right now. So, Vinny, welcome to Lung Transplant Nation. And so please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you for having me today, Sasha. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm a lung transplant recipient. I was transplanted in July of 2021, July 15th. I had previously I had pulmonary fibrosis, which led to me needing a lung transplant, and I was fortunate to get a single lung transplant in July of 2021. And there's been a few bumps in the road, which is part of our life as transplant recipients. But I consider myself very, very fortunate. I'm very grateful to have gotten a second chance at life with the lung transplant. And today life is good. I can't complain because it's my quality of life is actually better now than it was for the last I'd say year, 2 years before getting the lung transplant, and the last I'd say 6 months before getting the transplant, I was declining fast.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I have a lot of gratitude for having received this, and the care that I've gotten and the support that I've gotten has been it's been life changing. I mean, it really has, because you reflect on how good you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Not only by getting the transplant, but how people come and help, family, friends, co-workers. I know, I received a lot of very, very positive support, and I'm very, very fortunate for that.
That is great. That is great to know, because expanding on that a little bit, because we belong to different transplant group support and people that are on the waiting list, and I think like once you are waiting to find out, this is where all the questions comes in and you don't know what to ask and so forth and so on. So yes, some people, I mean, I've seen some message board in the group that I belong to on Facebook, and some people are like, well, you know, is it worth it, everything that you have to go through and so forth and so on? You know what I mean? Tend to have like a negative, you know, aspect on it. And I've been trying to tell them, I say, look, listen, that's the hardest thing I personally had to go through in my life. But guess what? It's all worth it. Like you said, with all the bumps in the road, with everything else that happened, listen, like, you know, we're not on oxygen. And I used to be at some point on 32 liters. I was hospitalized for a few months before. So we each got our own different stories. But like you said, absolutely, it is worth it. But in that frame of mind, you mentioned support, and I think that's a really key part of it. Can you tell us a little bit, you know, what sort of support did you get? And sometimes, I mean, I had support from like people, acquaintances, and you know, even strangers, you know, wishing you well made me feel good. You know, people praying for you made me feel good. So tell me a little bit about the kind of support that you received.
All right, I'm going to start with my family because family is family.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, I'm moving around a little bit here, getting comfortable. Well, when I really got quite sick and knew I was going to need a transplant, you know, the doctors told me, you know, that they were going to try and get me on a transplant list. Both of my adult children who were living in California, one in LA, one in Santa Barbara. And they both came back east here to, I live in the Bronx, and they came to help with my daily needs and my recovery. Awesome. And at that point, I was also on oxygen. I was on home oxygen. First, I was on one of the battery operated units, and then that wasn't cutting it.
The little portable, right? The portable machine.
The portable machine. Yeah.
Yes.
And I also had tanks in the house. But then they put me on from the portable because it wasn't giving me enough oxygen as I needed. Then they put me on a electric, you know, plug-in machine in the house.
Yes.
And I needed to be on that on the max 24/7. It got to. And at that point I was also I was in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up as you did. I ended up being admitted to the hospital because they had to put me on high flow.
Yeah.
Now, I also got a lot of support. We were talking about support there. I got a lot of support from friends. I have friends that I really was not in regular contact with, but friends from, you know, from my childhood, from my grammar school, high school, you know, college. And, you know, they started, you know, hearing that I was very, very sick. And people were reaching out, and many people, you know, I hear from, I do FaceTime or phone calls or what have you. People call, you know, some people call me once a week, other people call once a month, people I call as well since we've gotten back in touch. Family, I have family that's not local, and they stay in touch, and you know, everybody, you know, cousins and all that, they showed a lot of concern. My coworkers were amazing because I was working. I work from home. I work in healthcare technology.
Okay.
I've been working from home for quite a few years, and I can sit at a computer,
which is great,
and do my job. I don't even have to talk necessarily. I I assist other. I'm a mentor, so I will assist other. I will assist support people and technicians, and most of it is just done by typing
Sure.
and supplying resources to people. So I wouldn't even necessarily need to um, be talking on the phone with them or through some sort of electronic, voice method, which was good because I did not necessarily have the ability to be able to speak for any duration any
Sure.
long time. And but people were just really, really amazing, uh, and it made me. It really gave me a will. It
Yes.
really gave me. I feel, if I'm so important to all these people in my life, I better step up and do the best I can to,
Exactly.
you know, to make this happen. And I would say, I went in for a biopsy, a lung biopsy in August 1st, 2018. And they determined then that, I had exactly, pulmonary fibrosis and it was pretty serious. And at that time, and for the next maybe even year or two after, the idea of getting a lung transplant was like out of the question.
Mhm.
Like, well, if it ever comes to that, no, I'm not going to do it. That seems like too much to have to go through.
Yeah, yeah. It seems
And
daunting. Seems daunting.
yeah,
Yeah,
and having to, it's a major, major surgery.
yeah.
And but then, by the time I got really so sick, like I said, I was in a wheelchair.
Mhm.
I and I got approved to be on the transplant list. And then I got hospitalized to be on the high flow oxygen.
Yeah, same with me.
Um, I was ready. That's the only way I can say it. I was ready. I mean, you know, uh, at that point, I had been, my quality of life by then had diminished to a point where um, it was worth it. It was worth, I had no question that it was worthwhile,
That is awesome.
uh, to do this and give it a try. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to come through this all right. Um,
But you had the right mindset. You had the right mindset to say, you know what? The way I'm living, it's not how I want to live. You see what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
yeah,
therefore, you know what? Let me go in, with faith, with everything else, whether it's in the doctors, your own personal faith. But like you said, with friends and family and acquaintances, it depends. It doesn't matter, like if you speak to somebody every day or every other week and so forth and so on, that helps. It helps the psyche. It helps. It makes you feel good. I'm saying from my own personal experience that people I haven't heard in a while even send me a text, an email, a
mhm,
message. It felt good. I was like, oh wow, I haven't thought about so and so for a long time.
yeah,
It's a beautiful thing. They're reaching out. They said, hey, we're here for you. Tell us, what we can do. And a lot of time I got it very emotional. People that you know in the past and so forth and so on. But life happens and you don't get in touch with people. And they had no idea, that I was sick and to that effect. And it's really humbling. And it's a beautiful thing because it really helps your psyche to say, wow, okay, not just for my family, for myself, I gotta fight, but there are other people that care about us. But like you said, life happens and we don't keep in touch as much as we can. But it is very important, especially for people that are listed or even pre-listed, to kind of like really think that through, because the operation is a major operation. So you got to have the right mindset, and the support is huge. Okay, and you got to be open to it as well. You really got to be, because I had to have a positive mindset. I had to have a positive mindset, and I think that kind of go a long way. Now let me ask you, you said you were hospitalized as well. So how long, do you remember how long you were hospitalized for?
I went into the hospital June 1st of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and I got my transplant 6 weeks later, July 15th.
Oh, that wasn't bad at all. That
It
was
was
awesome.
fast.
Any dry
And
runs?
I'm sorry?
Any dry runs?
Yeah. Trying to think, was it one or two? I think it was only one dry run.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it was only one dry run. And I had gotten as far as they were ready to start the anesthesia on me.
Oh, okay.
And then that was going to be, that was because I signed the consent,
Sure.
and that was going to be a double lung transplant.
Oh, okay.
It was, yeah. And they brought me all the way, downstairs to the operating, to the pre-op area,
Mm-hmm.
and they were ready to start the anesthesia.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden they said, "Oh," they called it off because the doctors found some I don't remember if it was some pneumonia or some infection in the donor lungs, and
Mm,
they said it's too risky. We're not gonna transplant you.
well,
And then I think it was only about maybe another week, 10 days. Then they said they had a single lung transplant,
mhm.
and I signed the consent on that, and woke up in the ICU.
Okay, so before we even get to that, because I really want to get to that, but let me ask you though, this is intriguing that you brought it up. So you were scheduled for a double lung transplant at first?
Yeah.
That was the idea. That is interesting. So you ended up receiving a single lung transplant.
Yeah, and I asked at the time, or I don't know if I asked at the time or if I asked after. I can't recall. But I
Mhm.
said, "How come I got a single as opposed to a double?"
Exactly.
And they said, "Because there was another person gravely ill, and we needed to save two lives."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I felt good about that.
Okay.
I
Okay.
felt good about that.
That's a beautiful thing. Wow. Okay. So to audience members that might not know what a dry run is, so let me just clarify that. This is when they tell you, hey, we got a set of lungs or one lung for you that we're ready to go. So you go to all the tests and blood tests. I had like what, every time it was like 25 to 28 vials of blood. I mean, you name it. So you go to all the tests, you have to fast at least for 12 hours, and then you really just on hold. You're waiting. That is for us who's been hospitalized. For people that come from home, it could be a different story, but they still have to go to all the tests. So that's what a dry run is. So when you think you're getting a set of lungs, or you're getting you know, your lung, they said everything looks good and so forth and so on. So you go to all the tests, you get yourself ready. And then at the last minute, they found something, like you said, whether it's pneumonia, anything that makes them nervous, they said, we're not taking a chance. And for me in the beginning, because I had 6 dry runs and got
Yeah.
my surgery on the 7th. So for me in the beginning, it was pretty annoying, but I changed my mindset. I'm like, hey, I would rather get the perfect set of lungs for myself and wait, because I was already in the hospital, being taken care of. Then, because what would happen would be like, okay, they'll find a pair of lungs, but one would be fine and the other one was a little suspect for whatever reason, and they were not comfortable. So once I switched my mindset and say, hey, you know what? I would rather them getting the right set of lungs so I don't have any further complication, because God knows those surgeries, you never know what's going to happen. And so yeah, that's what a dry run is. When you think you're going to get your lungs and then at the last minute they pulled it back, and then you got to wait to see when your next one. But for you, it was pretty good, because a week or two, that's not too bad at all. That's not too bad.
No, it was yeah, so from the time I went into the hospital till I got the um actually got transplanted, it was only about 6 weeks.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So now, after the big day, now from what they tell you, probably don't have much recollection, but from what they told you, how long did it take you to come through after the operation? Was it a couple of days? Was it, how was it post-surgery?
The first few days were I don't even remember at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um I really wasn't doing so well the first few days.
Okay.
My family, my kids,
Mm-hmm.
my wife, they were there, they came,
Mm-hmm.
to, and then, uh, the day after that, they would say, oh, yeah, yeah, do you remember, seeing us yesterday? When they came back the next day, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
say, and I had no recollection,
Election,
no
yeah.
memory of them being there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was after I was in the ICU maybe, it must have been maybe about 5 days. And then all of a sudden things started turning around, things started changing. Um, I think the first like 3 days were, I was, I couldn't, keep really hold on to any memory or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then it got better, and I'm trying to remember how long I was actually in the ICU. I think I was in the ICU about a week.
Okay.
Um, and then actually they told me I was ready to be released from the ICU and go into a regular room. And but it took a couple of days for them to have a room ready.
Okay.
So then I went into a room at New York Presbyterian on the ninth floor, which was all transplant patients.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for, I think, about another week and a half. I think I was actually released, came home from the hospital on August 3rd, I believe it was.
Okay.
So, and it was pretty quick then. Once I started, you know, getting back to normal and getting my strength, enough strength to be able to, function better. I every every day got better. I mean, really, I made progress, good progress every day.
That's great. And I'm assuming that you had to do the rehab and everything else, because to me that was one of the toughest part. Like when I came through, was rehabbing, because I had some damage on my right leg, but rehabbing was really tough. It was really
I
tough.
had I had visiting nurse care,
Okay.
and I had a physical therapist coming in to the home.
Okay. Did you do any rehab at the hospital?
I did not do any. I did not do any physical therapy, if that's what you mean.
Yes, physical
No, I
therapy.
didn't. I didn't have to do any of that. I
Okay.
mean, no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. That's not true. Um, yes, I did it, but I didn't have to go to like the rehab area on another floor. They came into my room. Is that what you mean? Like,
Yes, yeah. Well, there
yeah,
were two. To me, my first was like they came to my room because I really couldn't move my leg. They came to my room, and then after I started to eventually, after a couple of weeks, I started to get up. They had like the high walkers, I take small
right.
steps, and then as I gotten better, then they had taking me to the rehab where you had it's both PT and and OT, physical therapy,
Yes, right.
occupational therapy. Since I think we were in the same hospital, New York Presbyterian Columbia, where you have the cab there and everything else. So yeah.
Yes, I had that. I had the PT and the OT.
Mhm.
They walk you down the hall back and forth, and
Yes.
and which was, I mean, getting back on. It was probably more difficult for you because you had trouble with your leg.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, it was real. I remember the first time just even trying to sit up and then just like stand for
Hmm.
a number of seconds
Hmm.
was difficult because the body just it's really, really, you lose a lot
Yeah.
being in bed for
Yeah.
whatever, a week or 2 weeks takes
Exactly.
a lot out of you.
Yes, it does. And it. Mhm.
No, I was just going to say, and getting back to just be able to stand up and then take a step,
Mhm.
take another step. It's exhausting. But all that being said, I found from my experience, it's like I was saying about when I was in the ICU and when things started getting better, every day got much better. Same thing
That
with
is awesome.
physical therapy. Once you get going,
Mhm.
you know, it feels like you're never gonna walk again. And then, you know, it comes back. You get your strength back. It's really, for me, it was really, I think, mostly a matter of strength.
Yeah, and I also think patience is the word too. You got to learn how to be patient, because that's one of the things that uh, the team of doctors, the transplant team, emphasize. They say, look, as you get listed, no matter what your state is, whatever oxygen you're taking, and so forth, so on, if you're able to ambulate, do that. Work out, do some kind of a rehab, pulmonary rehab beforehand if you can, because the surgery does take a lot of you. Now, different people will have different, results. Some people are out within a week, God bless them, or even less than that. But most people, I think, really, take a little time, for it to get back. So that's why they tell you, try to eat as healthy as possible. Try to, have, some rehab before, get some strength, build some endurance, because it really helps. It really helps. It really helps.
Uh, I also had I had to have therapy with learning how to eat again.
Hmm. Yeah.
Did you have that as well? I'm not sure if that's
Oh,
typical for
oh,
everybody, but
oh my God. Listen, I couldn't hold a pencil because I remember, because I had a trick. So I don't know if you had a trick, but I had a
oh, I
trick.
didn't have a trach. No, you
I
had a
had a
trach, huh?
trick. They were feeding me through the tube. And
Yeah.
the frustrating part is, like, if I'm hurting or something's happening, I couldn't communicate. So what my wife did, she found, like, uh, one of those old little kids board that you used to write as a kid, and it
Hmm.
very light. And I mean, that thing is like you could just hold it in your little pinky, very light. And so she bought that for me so I can write and try to explain to people. Vinny, I couldn't even hold a pen. Like, it's like my mind telling me what I need to do, but my body wasn't responding. And that's where sometimes the frustration can set in. So yeah, the holding of the pen, the talking, because after a while, with you know, so eventually it covered. I don't know if you can see, but it covered up fairly well on its own.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I do see it, but
yeah, I had like a big hole in there, and every time you talk, you could hear, because at first they wanted me to try to, once they take it out, I had, like, it looks like some kind of ventilation, like a machine, like a, it's almost like a turbine. So they plug it in and say, whenever you want to speak, put it in. And I was like, okay. but it was just so hard. But through practice, like you said, so I had to do that. I had to learn how to eat because they wanted me to, if they wanted to make sure that you were not biting your tongue. It's almost like a whole relearning process. So I had to go. They had the camera to the nostril, and they had a specialist coming in,
Mm-hmm.
starting with little like very soft like applesauce little thing to see how you
Right.
swallow, and then he graduated to crackers, and it's funny. It's like it looks like it felt like it took forever, but these are the process, the steps that you have to take, and it's just a reminder. It's almost like this surgery kind of like reset you, like you were a baby for a little bit again.
Well, yeah, I get as I recall, as they explained to me, your body has to learn how to take food
Mm-hmm.
and get it into your stomach, that it doesn't end up going like down the wrong tube and end up in your lung, because
Yeah.
that could cause an infection.
Yes. Yes.
So, and the muscles have to, you know, have to regroup and learn how to bring food through your swallowing process,
Mm-hmm.
in the proper manner.
Yeah.
It's not necessary, having gone through the surgery and all that and being on a feeding tube.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily going to be so easy, and it takes some time. Start off with liquids. Did they give you the ice cubes?
Oh,
Start off
I
the
was
ice cubes, and
I
then
love the ice cube. Listen, at first they wouldn't even let me get the ice cube. So when I finally at first it was like they were dabbing my lips. I was like, oh my God, this is torture. And then when I got the ice cube, I loved it. I said to myself, when I get home, I'm gonna make a slushy and just eat ice cube because it just felt so good. It's
yeah,
to
yeah,
the lip and then get to swallow the ice cube. I mean, people who doesn't feel like, what are you guys talking about? I'm like, these are like little process that really is part of recovery. Let me ask you real quickly, how did you feel when you actually took your first breath without oxygen? How did that feel?
it's funny because first when they first took all the tubes out and all that,
Mhm.
I wasn't even sure that I was breathing through my transplanted lung. I had to ask that.
Yeah,
Am I, you know, is this? I had to ask, am I breathing on my own now? And they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it felt great. I mean, it was wonderful to know that,
yeah.
you didn't have to be on a mechanical or artificial.
Ventilator and all that stuff. Yeah,
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 yeah. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. It's at first for me it was almost scary because at first like they had me on like a 2 liter oxygen just as a backup once they removed the ventilator, and then they slowly took that away. I mean,
yeah. Same with me.
they
Yeah,
left the cannula, so I'm thinking I'm still getting oxygen, and they said, okay, so you're doing fine. We're taking off the ventilator. I'm like, yeah, but how much oxygen do I need? They're like, well, there's no oxygen coming through. It's just a
yeah,
tube.
yeah. Right. Same with me. It was the same thing as there, because I think if they keep it in place in case you do need it, they turn it right on.
Sure. But that was a beautiful thing, and like you said, yeah, well worth it because to me it's like every experience that I'm going through right now, it's like it's a new life. It's a new experience because if I didn't go through that process, I wouldn't be having those experiences. You know what I mean? So it's I really think it's a beautiful thing, and I really think it's worth it. Like you said, they are bumps in the road. That's hey, it's gonna happen. I mean, especially for us with with COVID and everything else,
Yeah,
we really have to be careful. As far as like the cleanliness, washing hands, hand sanitizers, and things like that. Um, how has that been for you as far as like when you have to step out in the public area? How do you feel?
Well, I really don't. Um, I try and avoid crowds.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. Go out. I mean, I go to the store.
Mm-hmm.
There's things in life that that you do as part of normal life, and you have to manage it and be careful. I mean, I wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get uh, I don't get too close to folks.
Mm-hmm.
I keep my distance if I'm standing on a line or whatever. But I don't go out of my way to be in public settings, casual settings of, for the sake of entertainment. Uh, I really don't go out to restaurants, very rarely.
Mm-hmm.
I try and do things outdoors.
Yeah.
I don't, uh, I there's a lot of events that I used to like to go to and partake in that I don't. Uh, this past summer, I actually went to two baseball games,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt I felt okay with that because at least you're like outdoors,
Yes.
you're out in the air, and
Mm-hmm.
I wore a mask the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and just try and be careful. And for a long time, I didn't get on a bus or the subway at all. I mean, I will now, uh, but only really when necessary. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't do as much activity as
Mm-hmm.
I used to uh, do when I, before before having the lung transplant and being immune compromised.
Okay. And listen, and there's nothing wrong with that because we know with this, there's going to be a modification of the lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Thank you, folks, for watching part 1 of my conversation with Vincent A. Click on the next link for part 2. Thank you. Don't forget, like and subscribe so I can bring you some more conversation. I'm really excited about the next few conversations that I'm about to release. So please stay tuned. I do have a conversation coming up with Claire from Japan, and I think you will find that very, very interesting comparing to the system that we have here in the US and the system that she has in Japan. So please stand by and we'll release that fairly soon. Thank you again for subscribing to Lung Transplant Nation on YouTube and on Instagram. Have a blessed day.